Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This video is another video in the series of why we attract narcissistic people or why narcissistic people are attracted to us, whichever way you want to look at it. And remember, just because this video will resonate with some people, it will not resonate with others. Although we can have lived similar lives, we experience things differently. We are all individuals. So this video is going to cover why being raised by narcissistic parents can set us up for narcissistic relationships later in life. Thank you very much to all the returning subscribers and your continued support with the channel. If you are new to the channel, I'm Elizabeth Shaw. This channel is all about the narcissist personality disorder to give you more understanding of the people you might be dealing with in your life, how to handle yourself around those people if you cannot go no contact, and different methods to find what works for you to help you overcome narcissistic abuse. If you do find the information helpful on the channel, please do subscribe. So when we've been raised by narcissistic parents, we can often reject genuine people for many different reasons. One of those reasons is when you're raised by narcissistic parents, you're often trained into not feeling enough. So you don't feel good enough as a person for a genuine person, even though you're a genuine person, even though you're loyal and kind and respectful. You don't feel enough for those who are, because you've been trained by your parents to not feel enough. And yes, narcissistic people cannot feel enough. So you can have that in common. You can share with the narcissist that neither party feels enough. However, you're coming together with different intentions. Because you don't feel enough, you might be going all out to make the narcissist feel enough. Which a narcissist who's seeking excessive attention, who's looking to get their self-esteem met from another person, looking for someone to boost their ego. This is everything a narcissist desires within a person. When it comes to feeling enough, they desire somebody who's going to shower them with attention, who's going to rescue them, who's going to support them, support the narcissist needs. However, the person who is not a narcissist, who is not feeling enough because they were raised by narcissistic parents, is going in there to make the narcissist feel enough, to help the narcissist out, putting their own needs at the bottom of the pile and trying to do all they can to put the narcissist needs first, which is a recipe for disaster. Although both are coming from a place of not feeling enough, the intentions are very different. And when one person's intentions is to support another and the other person's intentions is to purely get that support and not give anything in return, the narcissist then gains control of the situation and further makes that person who's going in to help the narcissist no longer feel enough. And when you're raised by narcissistic parents, it's a pattern of behaviour that you unwittingly become accustomed to. You believe to be normal. You accept behaviour as normal that you should never have accepted. So when the narcissist pulls a stunt, when they fall silent, when they sulk, you can recognise, oh, my parents did that, that's normal, this is what people do, not recognising that it's not what everybody does. When raised by narcissistic parents, we're often trained to accept conditional love. So unconditional love feels unfamiliar to us. So we can reject the unconditional love because it makes us feel off. Conditional love feels familiar to us. So although it can make us feel off, we don't reject it because we can rationalise within our mind as to why it's normal, even though it's not normal, because we were raised in that same conditioned environment. When raised by narcissistic parents, you are conditioned, you are trained up to please them, to serve them, to help them, to listen to them, to solve their problems. And narcissists don't listen back. As we listen more and more and more, we change to suit them. And they don't listen to us, they invalidate us and they make us feel less than. But as we want to listen to them, as we want to please them, we're unwittingly providing them with the attention that they seek, not realising that they're neglecting us in the process. When you've been raised by a narcissistic parent and you're quite an empathetic person, you're almost trained by a narcissistic parent to become an empathetic. Yes, some people can turn into a narcissist. This video isn't about that. Some children of narcissistic parents can be trained to be highly empathetic, to put their parents' needs before their own. So when you're trained by a narcissistic parent to be empathetic of other people's needs, to serve the narcissist, a narcissistic partner is going to exploit your empathy. They're going to use your emotions against you. They're going to use your compassion against you. They're going to use your sympathetic nature against you to get their needs met, to emotionally manipulate you into serving them. And when you've been made to feel insignificant by a narcissistic parent, when you've been invalidated and devalued, it's familiar. So when a narcissistic partner invalidates you and devalues you, it's familiar. It's not right, but it feels familiar. When you've been the scapegoat of a narcissistic parent, you've been trained to take all the blame for anything that goes wrong within that family dynamics. You've been trained to take the fall. So when you've got a narcissistic partner that's blaming you because you've been trained throughout your childhood to believe that everything's your fault, it's easier for a narcissistic partner to gaslight you into believing you're the one causing all the problems. Your belief system is already set that you're the one that causes the problems. You're the one that's to blame. You're the one that needs to change. You're the one that needs to listen to them. You're the one that needs to work harder to please them, because that is the identity your parents gave you. Your parents might have turned you into a rescuer. So you believe it's your job to rescue people. Your parents might have always had illnesses, so you had to look after them, care for them. Your parents might have always had you serve them, so you believe it's normal to go out there and rescue other people. This isn't to blame anyone. We do have to take responsibility for our own behaviour. However, when you are raised by a narcissistic parent, they are the ones teaching you. They are the ones distorting that identity within you. And while you live it, you don't see it happening to you. Once you recognise it, that's when you can take responsibility for who you are and change those beliefs within you. Just because somebody planted those beliefs within you, yes, it becomes your identity. Yes, it's difficult to separate, but you have to separate your childhood and who they trained you into being, into who you are now and who you want to become for you. And because narcissistic parents often train you into not feeling enough, when a narcissist devalues, when a narcissistic partner invalidates you, you believe them because it's your identity from your childhood. It's not true. It's not who you are. It's what you've been led to believe. When you're raised by narcissistic parents, you're almost accustomed to the behaviour. You're wired to find that within others. You're wired to find similar people. You can almost relate to their pain and want to help them out because you've been trained to relate to your parents' pain to help them out. You've been trained into forgiving people. And I'm not saying forgiveness is a bad thing. Forgiveness is a good thing. However, there's only so many chances you can give people. Someone can make a mistake, and if they take ownership of that mistake, take responsibility for that mistake, and don't repeat that mistake, then that's okay. When they make a mistake, if you choose to forgive them, you can, but that is your warning. If they repeat that mistake, then this is your lesson that that is who they are. And if you forgive them again and they repeat that mistake, they are taking advantage of your forgiveness. And a narcissistic parent trains you to forgive them so they can take advantage of your forgiveness, so that they can exploit your forgiveness. You're trained into being a forgiving person. So when you get into a narcissistic relationship later in life, you're trained to forgive, that forgiveness is important. It's one of your values to forgive people. It's your belief to forgive people. So then it becomes very difficult to recognise that forgiveness is your perception on forgiveness, not what somebody else has told you. So you have to recognise what someone has done to you, recognise whether you want to forgive them, stay with them, whether you want to forgive them, leave them, whether you don't want to forgive them, whether you want to forgive yourself or not. It's all dependent on you. However, narcissistic parents train you to be extremely forgiving, no matter how much someone hurts you. The problem with forgiving a narcissist is forgiving a narcissist enables them, because they take it as permission to carry on their behaviour. And the more you forgive them, their behaviour often gets worse. When dating people, you have to recognise that you're not dating your mum and dad, or you're not dating somebody and trying to change the end of the story. And narcissistic people, the very confusing thing about this is narcissistic people are extremely good at getting to know everything about you, so that it's not just that wild connection. You believe you have a lot in common with them. And it's not until later down the line that you realise that they're not a nice person and you don't have those things in common with them, because they idolise, they love bomb, they mirror, they future fake. So you don't fully recognise it, which is why it's always best to take things slow and learn patterns of behaviour. What you have to do is separate the two. You have to separate your childhood from your adulthood and make what was once familiar become so unfamiliar that you no longer accept what was once familiar, that treatment towards you, because it's not who you've become. You are not your trauma. The trauma happened to you. It's things you have to overcome, but you are not your trauma. Your trauma happened to you. You have to make the behaviour, how somebody treated you, unfamiliar. We have to learn to know our values and our beliefs, and a lot is digging deep into things that have happened to change our values and our beliefs to work for us, because we've been trained for them to work against us. So now we need to educate ourselves on what our values and beliefs are and find ones that work for who we are as a person. Don't tell people everything about yourself straight away on the off. Get to know people for who they are. If someone's asking too many questions about you, ask them questions. See what their response is before you give them the information about yourself. Two-way conversations. When they're asking you about who you are and then they repeat that they are the same as you, that's a little bit of a red flag. When they ask you who you are and then you ask them who they are, and they give you information that might not be the same as who you are, but things you can work with together, this is something where you can take your time and develop the communication. Learn the red flags, learn to recognise the behaviours of narcissistic people so you can recognise the patterns and walk away a lot sooner. Creating your boundaries. Boundaries are deal breakers when it comes to narcissistic relationships. It is in the beginning. In the beginning, boundaries are a great deal breaker because we can recognise people who aren't going to accept our no's very well. And with some narcissists, this is tricky because they will accept your no's in the beginning. It's when you get further down the line that they begin to throw the tantrums. And when you are further down that line, it's very difficult to say no to narcissistic people due to their anger, due to their rage, due to their silence. And then because you don't speak up for yourself, a narcissist takes this as permission to continue their hurtful behaviour towards you. So the main thing to avoid narcissistic people is getting to know yourself so well that other people's opinions of you no longer define you. I shall add the video into the description about 10 methods to avoid narcissistic people. I shall link this video into a playlist on why we attract narcissistic people, and I shall add the playlist into the description also. Go out there and create the day that you deserve, because you do deserve to have an amazing day. Bye.